G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is an MTAR. This is a highly customizable standalone weapon using the same animations from the AUG mod, as you can tell right here. I've got that installed. But this thing will be updated and soon it won't have that mod dependency. So we'll get into the attachments right now. And first of all, for the receivers, there's nothing here. There might be more stuff here come further updates, but for now we're just stuck with receiver. Can't do anything with the front iron sight, but the rear iron sights you can chuck on some reflex sights if you want, and even scopes like the ACOG. That's the 4x scope, at least it was in Battlefield. I'm getting those Battlefield vibes out of this. I'm definitely chucking on the Aerotech because I love the Aerotech side. It's so good. Moving on to the muzzle bit, so you can have a flash suppressor of. I'm in the Battlefield mood at the moment, apparently, and also a sound suppressor, which is nice. We'll be chucking those on. We'll also be using this weapon without a suppressor to make sure we don't trigger any whiny comment section people. So we'll chuck on the smokestack, and then we'll move on. Now for the foregrips, you've got these. I'm pretty sure these are just aesthetical changes, so do with those what you will, but if you want to increase this thing's mag capacity, you can do it in either 40 rounds or 60 round variants, or just change the look of that 30 round mag to something that's more tactical, I guess. Let's go 60 because it's got a big old mag, and also that boosts our rate of fire a little bit. That might be a little bit of a bug that needs to be looked at, but you can also change it from semi-auto to automatic. You'll notice that the automatic variant doesn't actually have anything, you know, penalizing the damage like this thing would have normal, and apparently switching to that would make our rate of fire 131 again. So in the interest of not having this thing bugged, we'll just switch the fire selector twice. Interestingly, the fire selector on the actual model there doesn't move, so attention to detail would be nice, but you know, that's a pretty advanced little thing. You've also got a bunch of paints you could color this in. Just having a quick scroll through so you can take a look at them all. Some of these are pretty on the full-on side. I generally like to have my weapons nice and dark like that. I reckon the black material looks the best. It's even got that white tip on the suppressor there on that end. So, yes, definitely what I want. And, of course, you can change the calibers from 5.56 to 10mm. Interestingly, the 10mm, again, will give you that 435 modification of that, and then we go ahead and chuck that on. I think it's shifted our attachment section a little bit. We should probably find the magazines again because there it is. There's the magazine. So you can put the 10mm extended magazine in, and it's got 35 round capacity. Interestingly, only now does it actually give us a damage penalty on that, but if we switch back to 5.56, and we have to go ahead and chuck on that magazine back again, as you can tell, yeah, it does give us a little bit of a damage penalty, which does make sense, but you'll be using the much more common 10mm instead of the 5.56s, but by endgame standards, you could probably get enough 5.56mm shots to, you know, run this as much as you want. You've also got a damage slider there if the damage isn't quite doing it for you. If you want to scale this to normal difficulty when you're playing on very hard, chucking it to 100% damage will be fine, but we're on big boy very hard difficulty, and 203 damage is probably going to be sufficient enough, so I'll grab this and one more without a suppressor, and we can start shooting people. Alright, so here we are in Shooting Gallery Plaza, and this is our MTAR in first person. Looks pretty good. Probably shouldn't have bashed there, but that's what the animation looks like. Taking a look in third person, the thing seems to be reasonably sized, no clipping or anything like that, so looks very, very good, and without the suppressor it's even more compact looking, but we're going to be using this as stealthy as possible first up. So, as you'd expect from an MTAR, this thing is going to be exceptionally good at close range. Now, I'm used to using this thing like I would in Battlefield, and you'd think the rate of fire would be a little bit higher than what we're seeing now, but regardless of that, it's going to be a little bit more ammo efficient that way. And that 60 round mag almost allowed us to take out 3 gunners there with the help of sneak attack criticals just to start off, which is pretty damn good. We'll peek this corner, take that turret, and we're back into caution at this point, which means we can get those big old damage multipliers, especially with suppressors, because, you know, stealth commandoing, as good as it is in Fallout 76, it was so much better in Fallout 4, I'll tell you that much. So, over range, you'll see that the, this thing only has a range stat, I think, of 95, and over range, we're only hitting him for 40 damage, and the recoil is bouncing this weapon up a little bit. If we go in nice and close, however, we can see that we quickly double our damage. So the way range works in this game is just an arbitrary range. I don't think it's in meters or anything. It'd be interesting if it was, but basically, if you're outside of this weapon's intended range, you'll just get penalized with half damage, and we're in the, let's say, I don't know, about 20 meters away from these guys, and we're getting a pretty good damage penalty attached to us. Even they were only hitting them for less than 100. Okay, so it looks like 87 is generally around the time, or around, the maximum damage we can get on these mid-level gunners. There's Captain Bridget, and we're going to use VATS against her because she is a target that ought to be shot at with extreme prejudice. Take this. And as you can tell, as soon as we move into close range, we're hitting her much harder now, and we'll go into VATS again. Go for a critical in the torso. That should probably take her. If it doesn't, we can follow it up with some quick hip fire, because VATS is interesting in this game. Okay, we'll move on to something else. To cure the range problem a little bit, we can use this thing in without a suppressor, and that'll increase our range due to, not using those subsonic rounds, I guess, that a suppressor would have. That's why they don't detect you, because the bullets ain't making the big old crack as they fly through the air. But regardless of that, seems to be going well. We've only got the 40 round mag, so reloading is going to be a little bit more common with this, but we can get ourselves into positions where we don't have to actually use it all that much. And according to the mod author, there is something going on with just the hip fire spread when you're on the move. Apparently that's really, really high, and I'd be inclined to agree with that. I'm just going to mag dump these gunners over here, and notice how the gunner's just swaying everywhere. There's no actual recoil pattern to really go with. I guess there is there. I'm going to try to counter that like you would a Battlefield 4 weapon. No, I need more training when it comes to doing that. Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 hasn't gotten me in a good position to... Oh, I actually got my leg crippled. Uh-oh, someone's got a kneecap weapon. Who's that legendary? You've got a kneecap weapon. That's like the first time I've been crippled in Fallout 4 in ages, because I always use adamantium skeleton in this game, god damn it. We just jam a stim pack into me veins. There we go. And now we can be on the move again. And that was just the gun recovering from my crippled leg for some reason. Yeah, you ain't got nothing on me. Yep, that kneecap Beretta. Wow, I'm surprised that didn't happen again. Although we were under the influence of a stim pack, so any leg cripples would have been immediately healed anyway. So, oh, that's why I had to recover there, because I got my leg crippled, but my stim pack was healing me, so it just automatically fixed itself. So there you have it. I'm thinking the rate of fire needs to be a bit more, and a projectable recoil set would probably be a lot better now. It feels a little bit like a reskinned AUG at the moment. I feel like with a high rate of fire, it could actually make this thing better. Also, for that close range purpose, having that high rate of fire will make you actually want to encounter your targets in close range rather than just stay back and pop sneak attack criticals. Righto, just to give you an idea of how much this weapon blooms and kicks around, I'm just going to mag dump this particular bus. And compared to a vanilla assault rifle, yeah, sure, it blooms out a little bit, but that's nothing compared to what I had my MTAR doing just after a quick reload. Yep, so this thing's accuracy is definitely under par when it comes to, vanilla game weapons, which is a little bit jarring, but that's okay. It means you need more skill to actually use it, right? So, yeah. Now, the question is whether this thing can perform at range, and judging by the range stat, which, by the way, I misspoke before, the suppressed one is only 65, and this, without the suppressor, is only 95 in range, and, wow, yeah, this thing... It's really not too great at range, is it? I guess it's got a short barrel though, so that makes sense. You'll notice how we can still ragdoll people though, so it's got sniper going for it at least. Despite this being a scope of the see-through variety, which I tend to not like because you've got a whole bunch of just crap jumping around in your face as you're trying to shoot, but some people like it. Yeah, you can actually knock people down with it. So the keywords that actually make this thing a scope are there, which is good to see. Now, when it comes to big, tough enemies, which you can't really take on in situations where there are frag mines here, I've never noticed those before, what you want to do is just continuously knock them down on the ground. And since this thing does have a nice rate of fire, a respectable rate of fire when it comes to, see there, I got distracted by the thing bouncing around in my face. But yeah, since you've got a good rate of fire on this, what happens is you can get those knockdowns, pretty fairly regularly, which is kind of what you want for a thing that only hits for 33 damage outside of this range. And we're getting some sneak attack criticals here, but after we drop this guy, hopefully we don't get ourselves into danger. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to switch over to my suppressed one, and as you can tell there, definitely much better. Alright, I'm going to try to burst this a little bit, maybe 2-3 round bursts to make sure the thing doesn't completely, come out of my control. We'll see how that works. Okay, unfortunately we got ourselves into danger there. Perhaps a full set of chameleon armor would do me nicely here, but if I decided to stop moving whilst crouched, you couldn't see the weapon, so that's why we're not doing that. Maybe I could do a chameleon like suit of armor, but without that visual thing, without you actually going invisible. Well, I don't know. Also, that's interesting. It's flinging around like a fish after you catch it. And this is an interesting time to suddenly lose track of me because I'm being shot at by many people. Alright, we're still in caution at this point, which is pretty good. We'll just quickly reload because, honestly, we're not really in that much of a threat zone now, but now we are. So, hitting these guys for about 78 damage. If we can zero in on the head, which might be a little bit difficult, where you going, mate? Oh yeah, you can see right there, only like 10 meters back, I'm actually suffering in terms of this thing's damage output. So hitting him for about 160 in the head. I saw a skirmisher there. We can't catch that guy with a minigun. He's been shooting at me for a while. I'm getting quite annoyed at that. We'll take out that squishy boy. And there's a super mutant warlord. We'll hit him up in VATS a little bit. See if we can't get him with concentrated fire. And that's all she wrote for that VATS run. It's not entirely efficient when it comes to VATS. Usually rifles really aren't, so nothing really to complain about there. I just think the accuracy and recoil on this thing, not being of vanilla gun variety, might make it come up lacking compared to the assault rifle, which has a similar rate of fire. You've got a bigger mag capacity, a faster reload, and more range. Of course, the weight's different, but as you come into, you know, high strength builds in Fallout 4, and it's easier to get to, even if you are spec'd for doing not melee, you can easily just, you know, level yourself to level up strength all that much. Weight really doesn't become an issue, unless, however, you are playing on survival, which, you know, some people do. Not my favourite game mode, but it is nice for a survival run every now and then. But regardless of all that, we've actually cleaned up these super mutants pretty effectively. Not too shabby with this particular run at Big John Salvage. You notice everything's nice and green too. I've got some sort of texture redone where they've made all of the grounds a little bit more green, and apparently Gerald over here has decided to not only lag our game, but he's decided not to attack the gunners. I'm pretty sure they were shooting at him before, either that or the super mutants around him got a little bit confused. We'll pop a critical there, so hitting him for a nice respectable 1k damage, and as you can tell right there, we've immediately stepped out of this thing's effective range, and our damage output has dropped significantly. But luckily enough for me, I was able to stay in caution. See, that's why I knock out those spotlights there, because there's been a few occasions where I've ran into these spotlights here, and wow, this is a target-rich environment. Thank God for those floating damage things, otherwise I would have not known what I was shooting at there. We've actually managed to clean up most of them now, which is pretty good. Just one more legendary warlord. And unlike Fallout 76, the legendaries actually do give you legendary items, however fucking terrible they may be. Alright, I guess we'll move on to one more monster and then we'll call it a video, I think. Alright, so I'm thinking in this fight it's going to be a little bit more difficult because we're only going to be hitting him for half our potential damage at this range, so... And not only that, we'll have to burst this thing quite a lot to actually stay on target, but it looks like this thing does get the occasional stagger, so maybe I was overestimating this Mylurk. Wow, he's just hucked a loogie all the way from there. Good on you. He's pretty on the mark. Like, that's not too far off. A little bit of accuracy short of a Mylurk Queen, though, although I think she's got a little bit of a splash damage. Nah, no pun intended with that acid splash, but still. Now, I'm thinking this thing actually does fire faster in third person, which is a bug that's been around in Fallout 4 for ages. I don't think it's in 76, interestingly enough. Now we are in danger. Let's see if we can't get a cheeky stagger on him as he's charging at us. Alright, time to use this thing in VATS, I reckon. Go for some criticals against you, hitting for 410 damage, which is pretty damn solid. Just keep on spamming that critical button. Hopefully we can get him in a stagger before we exit VATS. Or rather, no, we actually get wrecked there. And we've only got 10 in the mag, so we'll quickly dump the rest of our mag and switch over to our semi-auto version. Scope in and hope to the Lord that we can get a sniper knockdown, which we have, which is pretty good. and we'll use this time to quickly reload. We can do it in VATS to make it quicker, you see. Yes, we're exploiting the game to end our goals. Sue me, Bethesda. Sue me. And a Destroyer of Arcadia, or Arcadia, and Nerd Rage would have boosted our damage for a second there, but we managed to quickly finish off that Mirelurk pretty easily. We did get hit a couple of times there, but, you know, hardly broke a sweat. Just have a stim pack there and walk off those massive claw attacks. So there you have it. That was the MTAR. I'm going to ask the mod author if I can post this particular link in the video. So if you'd like to download this thing yourself, and he has confirmed that I'm allowed to, check out the description. There shall be a link down there. But you might have to wait for a later release on this thing, perhaps on the Nexus to actually get your hands on this thing. A little bit of work to be done in terms of this thing's balancing, in my opinion. Take that what you will. But if your vision is this thing to be a close quarters thing which does a lot of damage but is, you know, significantly outgunned at range, then I believe you've got this thing doing pretty well. Thank you very much for watching, guys.